That morning, I was absorbed in tending to my orchid's delicate blooms in my conservatory. Unaware of what the day had in store for me, the soft light streamed through the glass panels, illuminating the roots I'd recently planted. My hands, so used to nurturing, moved gently through the soil. The world felt quiet and manageable, till a sudden sharp pain shot through my lower back, startled. I dropped the tools I was holding. The pain was severe, paralyzing, almost. I closed my eyes, hoping it would pass, but the discomfort only intensified. It ran from my shoulder blade down to my waist, leaving me frozen, kneeling amidst the blossoms I loved so dearly. Then his voice, "Aunt Amelia, are you okay?" It was Maximo. It's my second nephew. I hadn't even heard the door. He entered with the usual burst of youth-strong frame, sunlight catching in his dark hair, his face etched with real concern. At 23, Maximo had that effortless charisma that followed him wherever he went. But in that moment, none of it mattered only. The sincerity in his voice did. He rushed over and knelt beside me. His brow furrowed. "My back," I said, breath catching. "I can't seem to move." He nodded, calm and composed. "Let me help." The conservatory had always been my sanctuary, especially after Raphael left. Among the plants, I found silence and a sort of spiritual revival. But that day, everything felt different, as if something within me was shifting. Maximo helped me sit upright, gently supporting my shoulders. "Do you want me to try and massage the spot just to see if it eases a little?" I hesitated but nodded. Pain had a way of softening pride. His hands were surprisingly steady, his touch careful and kind. He wasn't a trained masseur, of course, but his presence, his patience offered something even more valuable: care. It had been so long since I had allowed someone to care for me, to be near me in my vulnerability. As he worked through the tension in my muscles, I felt something else emerge. Not attraction, not anything untoward, but a deep wave of loneliness being seen. It had been dormant for years, masked by routine and self-discipline. Its compassion, so simple and human, reminded me of my own fragility and strength. I exhaled, perhaps more deeply than intended. He paused. "Too much pressure?" "No," I whispered. "Just thank you." He smiled softly but didn't say anything. He simply continued until my breathing had steadied and the pain began to subside. Then he helped me up with both arms, steadying me. "Aunt Amelia, this is more than just sore muscles," he said, concern returning to his face. "Let's get you inside. Near the fireplace. Sits warmer. I've got some muscle cream in my bag. You need rest." For a moment, I hesitated. Not because I doubted him, but because it had been so long since someone insisted on taking care of me. I gave a slight nod, and together we walked back toward the house slowly, deliberately, and, for the first time in a long time, I allowed myself to lean just a little on someone else. He abruptly halted and bowed down to meet me gaze. "Amelia, the situation is grave," he stated with graveness and apprehension. "This issue cannot be resolved within the greenhouse. We will approach the fireplace to capitalize on the warmth, and I will provide you with a tub of cream to soothe your back. It is imperative that we address this situation." I briefly hesitated, but ultimately the excruciating agony dictated my decision. I sat with my head bowed, and he provided me with the necessary assistance to integrate myself as he firmly grasped me. He cautioned me the manner in which he embraced me was peculiarly comforting. It was a level of intimacy that I had not encountered in a long time upon entering the room, while still illuminated by the golden glow of Theban fires. I was immediately invaded by a soothing sensation that alleviated some of the tension I was experiencing in my body. He promptly placed a blanket on the floor and instructed me to lie down with a hand gesture. He emphasized the significance, allowing the back to relax in a more comfortable position, his countenance bearing a serious demeanor. Despite the fact that his irises conveyed a certain degree of uncertainty Patenta will experience. A sense of relaxation in her strained muscles with the application of a small amount of cream. Maxima was rubbing the cream between his palms to warm it, while I observed the heat of Theban fire entering my body as I lay down was, unaware that I was suppressing Osai when his hand caressed my shoulder sand. I let it out. He assured him that he would soon feel better and that he would calm down in a tranquil voice. Not only did each touch of his hands alleviate my physical discomfort, but it also had a profound impact on me. I reawakened an internal force that I had believed to have been suppressed for an extended period of time. My thoughts became more agitated and acute as he stroked my back with his fingertips. Maximo's influence innate only promoted healing, but also sparked a sense of awakening experienced. A brief period of apprehension. Nevertheless, the agony was so intense that it was unbearable naturally. I consented instantaneously. Maximo gently grasped my arm and helped it stand. His warning to proceed with caution was audible as I approached. I felt a peculiar sense of protection as she's powerful hands nearly enveloped me. I felt a connection with this child that I had not experienced in a long time. As a result of the care he provided, the room was illuminated by the orange light oft chimney flames. Upon entering the home, creating a warm and inviting atmosphere, the noise of the flames and the sensation of heat that permeated the room temporarily induced a state of tranquility. Maximo promptly placed a blanket on the floor and instructed me to lie. Donnie expressed that you should adopt a more comfortable posture and relax your spine, maintaining a serious demeanor, with occasional moments of endurance. Furthermore, I brought a small amount of salve to alleviate the tension in your muscles. Maximo rubbed the cream between his palms to warm it while pressing it in his hand, and I felt the heat envelop my body as I lay on the bed. He astonished me by placing his hands on my shoulder, which caused my breathing to accelerate uncontrollably. He murmured, in a low voice, relax, you will now be in a more agreeable state. Nevertheless, I perceived a transformation with each contact. The hands of that individual not only provided me with physical solace, they also rekindled emotions that I had suppressed for an extended period. My thoughts were soothed as he gently stroked my back with his fingertips. The fact that they were also conflicting. Maximo's execution was distinguished by its firmness and delayed, allowed him to delve deeply into the emotional and physical realms, commented with a warmth in his tone that immediately captivated me, despite the fact that his muscles are so rigid that they do not astonish me at all. Emilio are making an excessive number of assumptions regarding the domestic responsibilities and the maintenance of greenhouse plants. It is imperative thought you also bear in mind your own health. My objective was to ensure that I was comprehended. Maximo, the conservatory's my sanctuary. In the absence of his presence, he interrupted his gesture with compassion, stating, I comprehend. Despite the fact that they also caused me concern, I was unable to comprehend the full implications of his words. Or perhaps I did, but I was unwilling to acknowledge it. He continued the massagation by gently descending his hansanto my back at that moment, despite the fact that a distinct knot was formed within the tension. Knots relaxed as a result of the warmth of his contact. A sense of both calm and dread was evoked by the sensation of his proximity. My voice was quivering as I articulated, Maximo, you are genuinely providential. Available assistance, I am aware, has stated this time with a more halted tone. Nevertheless, all will be well. Emilio Pies remained composed. It was clear that his statement sexed mere suggestions. His proximity increased with each passing instant. Much like the flames of a fire, Maximo's hands moved gingerly toward the lower portion of my back. The peculiar anxiety thought begun to invade me as vig. I relaxed each muscle with his caresses. The heat moved inward with a greater intensity. In a paused but firm manner, an internal conflict emerged as a result of the perplexity that occupied my mind at that moment. It was challenging for me to maintain serenity, but I reminded myself that I had to do so. My heart began to beat with intensity. As his warm palms descended toward my shoulders, Maximo's proximity was apparent, but the constraints of time were alsatis or absolutely. A shriek reverberated within me. Amelia, this child is your second Dollarine. Few, it is not advisable to engage in thought. Behavior. The room was completely illuminated by the pleasant light emanating from the fireplace. However, the temperature gradually increased to an unbearable level. My attention was inexorably drawn to Maximo as I watched him dry his forehead of sweat. His muscular torso, which was tanned by Thiessen and shone in the light of the fireplace, was suddenly revealed as the edge of his shirt. Scented, resembling a sculpted work of art, I find it challenging to articulate my sentiments at that time. It had been a considerable amount of time since I had experienced a strong sense of connection with an individual. As he lowered his shirt to the ground, he admitted that the heat emanating from the fire was excessive a despy. The fact that he appeared 80s, the intensity of his gaze rendered him completely immobile. Our gazes intersected at that precise moment. He expressed with a soft yet determined voice, "Amelia, you are also beginning to feel a lot of heat. Your mood will be exacerbated if you continue to wear that clothing. Please allow me to assist you." I am unable to articulate my emotions, experience a sensation of being unoblato, expel my thoughts. I contemplate redresting. Nevertheless, the room's oppressive atmosphere and the heat's intensity had an unbearable effect on my epidermis. I regained my composure. Maximo stooped down in close proximity to me and began to seek for the lower edge of my shirt. My skin was touched by his warm palms. The contact caused a chill to run down my spine, albeit it was not chilly but rather a warm sensation. He skillfully elevated my shirt, manipulating it gently until he finally removed it and placed it aside. At that instant, the atmosphere between us became more oppressive. His eyes briefly fixed on me before he abruptly averted them. Nevertheless, it was unnecessary to examine his face in order to comprehend emotional distress that those expressions induced within me. The name Amelia was pronounced by Maximo with a gentler and deeper tone than it had been in previous occasions. "What is your current state of health?" I responded in the affirmative, albeit with a strained tone. I was unable to conceal the emotional turmoil that consumed me. The sense of comfort that emanated from Maximo's presence completely enveloped me, not only due to the temperature. "Come closer," he said while extending his hand. "I suggest that we rest on the sofa. You appear to Bunisi." In this location, I grasped his palm. I felt an intense current that had not been felt in a long time. When our fingertips came into contact, I was securely held by his strong arms as he helped me to stand. Maximo's inherent protection was perceived as so evident, spontaneous, that my inner concerns began to subside for a brief period. He assisted me in gingerly settling down. Upon my arrival at the sofa, he promptly occupied the seat adjacent to me, but ensured that there was sufficient space between us. Nevertheless, the room was still tense. There was an unspoken truth between us that was so intricate it may have been impossible to articulate. I endeavored to maintain my composure amid the intensity of his gaze as I endeavored to regulate the internal unease. I experienced, nevertheless, it was apparent that an awareness of the intensity of our emotions was nearly inevitable on this evening. The silence between us intensified as we regained our composure, accompanied by the crackle of the bonfire. The intensity of my heartbeat was so intense that it was nearly audible in my thorax. Maximo's presence by my side had an effect on me even in the manner of his respiration semistinal. Experiencing anxiety and tranquility when I was in close proximity to him, this was my experience. I momentarily directed my gaze, and for a brief period our gazes aligned. Something was perceived in his countenance, possibly a genuine interest or something more enigmatic. It was unavoidable to overlook the gaze in his eyes, which was both tranquil and energetic. In the presence of such closeness, he experienced the sensation that time had halted at that precise moment. Maximo gradually extended his hand in mid-erection. I felt a shudder as his fingertips touched mine in spite of his mutism. The silence was replete With significance, he fixed his eyes on my lips for a brief period, and at that exact instant, everything took an unexpected turn. He gradually began toweling toward me, his respiration enveloped with a warm sensation in the skin. Ash was in close proximity. The voice within me abruptly ceased. There was no notion of goodness or malice at that time. I only noticed Maximo's gaze on this proximity to me. I made the decisionto close my eyes and approached him in a subtle manner. The sensation was as though time had halted as we pressed our lips together. Initially, the contact was delicate and inquisitive. However, it rapidly evolved into a more intense and pittance sensation. The warmth he radiated, his breath, and the sensation of his lips created the illusion of being detached from reality. It appeared that the emotions of fear, loneliness, and yearning that he harbored within me was somehow connected to his. At that instant, the gesture was not restricted to a simplicus. It embodied the expression of repressed longings, extended periods of silence, and potentially a secret connection. His hands delicately caressed my cheeks as the kiss intensified. His shoulders were automatically grasped me my palms. I could feel the warmth of his epidermis as it passed through my hands. Ultimately, we both separated our sieves simultaneously. Observed that our respiration was sagitated as we crossed our eyes. Nevertheless, the bond between us was perceived with greater intensity than a message was intended to be conveyed. Certainty was absent. Nevertheless, something was immediate. Less apart after that night, our relationship would never be the same. I observed that I was experiencing briefness subsequent to the contact. My heart beat so vigorously that it appeared to emerge from my chest. I perceived an intense longing and an interrogation in Maximo's eyes. When I met his gaze during that instant, my mind was completely at rest. My body and my heart were now responsible for making decisions. I replied really with a quivering voice. I have a clear understanding of my emotions. I yearn for you with all my heart. You are adored by it. Something within me ruptured as I articulated the words. The loneliness and anxieties that had accumulated over the years appeared to vanish in a single moment. The primary objective was to locate myself in this location at this instant adjacent to him. A momentary experience of bewilderment appeared on Maximo's face, which was subsequently replaced by a delayed smile. The warm atmosphere that enveloped Mewis reflected in his gaze. I have affection for you, he articulated it in a gentle yet firm tone. Amelia, I also harbor feelings of affection for you. Additionally, I endeavored to regulate my emotions. However, I am now incapable of resisting. I have a deep affection for you and aspire to be by your side. I was enveloped by the words he spoke. Much like the literal, my heart was touched by a syllable. Maximo tenderly embraced my face and re-entered the room. This time, there was no uncertainty. We were both aware of our aspirations. Our emotions were more powerful than any verbal expression. When our lips reconnected, this moment was a turning point in my life. Maximo's affection, expressions, and presence I did not tend to halt at that instant. Despite my apprehensions, nothing had ceased. I was entirely overcome by my emotions. At time, we were enveloped by a thin sheet, which caused us to feel breathless and connected. With a slight expression his face, Maximo sat by my side, up and raising my head. I observed that our clothing was dispersed across the floor. Ambiance of the evening was so surreal that it appeared to be a dream. Maximo's countenance was still radiated an attractive smile as he addressed him. His thumb barely touched my lips. While his hand gently caressed my face, he stated, Amelia, I would not change it for anything at this time. In a deepened, gentle voice, a whirlwind of emotions that were still present in me compelled him to turn to him, and I conveyed it with a sense of gratitude. Maximo, I am grateful for your assistance. I had not experienced such a sense of isolation in a long time. Nevertheless, your youthfulness, imposing presence, and dalier genuinely captivated me. My pupils did not convey sincerity nor maximasmo. which was characteristically cleanly and radiated from his face, was exhibited as his lip curled upwards. Amelia, you are cognizant of your attractiveness. He articulated, I am not referring solely to your physical appearance. The experience of sharing moments with you distinctive. Your amiable demeanor, your candor, each item contributes to my enhancement of self-esteem. It was impossible to avoid his gaze, his expressions, or his eye contact. I desiderato immortalize that night in my memory due to the intensity of the situation. I conveyed myself with sincerity. Maximo, I depended on you. There was nothing else. I desired more than to have O by my side. As Maximo's fingertips pierced the edge of the sheets, a gentle smile appeared on his face. Amelia, I will be returning to this location frequently from now on. He articulated himself with determination and candor. You can depend on me at all times. I offer you Thessalon's solely with the intention of contemplating you. At that instant, I felt as though a new path was emerging in my life. The profound loneliness and heavy burdens that I had previously encountered were gradually dissipating. The presence of Maximo by my side brevetted me with a sense of security and tranquility that was extraordinarily assuring. I resolved to close my eyes, take a deep breath, and approach his warm embrace with a little more intimacy. The commencement of my voyage occurred last. Thanks for listening.